In this video, I'm going to cover the history of how I got to where I am today and just talk about some learnings and challenges and the way that things happened for how I got to the $500,000 portfolio that I have today. So, the journey really began back in 2014 when I graduated from college. I went into my career, and my dad got me this book called Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. I think that's what it was called. And this book really talked about having your finances in general in order, and then some ideas for investing and how powerful compounding is in growth. Warren talks about that as well, Warren Buffett. And so when I read that book and I started looking at the financial markets and stocks, and then I discovered leveraged ETFs and options, I mean, from that point, I was just hooked. And I got really involved in the financial markets and trading and investing and just learning as much as I could. And so I ended up trying multiple services and listening to multiple people and just trying things out and seeing what worked and what didn't. And I also ended up discovering the precious metals market around that time. And in hindsight, it was amazing that I discovered it when I did. I remember in December 2015 into 2016 when this big upsurge happened. And, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but some people that I had followed back then were saying, oh, this could be the bottom of the gold market. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I should just keep learning and see what I can do. So over the next few years, I ended up continuing to try various services, and I tried trading. I tried day trading. Um, I really I had some success, but a lot of failure too. And I would say overall, I was pretty stagnant during this period in terms of performance. But what I did do is I did discover some gold, like precious metal analysts that I really liked, and I learned about various stocks in the industry, and started aligning my portfolio to take advantage of what I hoped would be a precious metals bull market. And that in and of itself came with a lot of ups and downs. Back then I wasn't really as diligent with understanding, how good a stock was. When you're looking at mining stocks, there's explorers, developers, small producers, big producers, and of course, because I'm younger and I'm trying to get as much leverage as possible, I'm investing in a lot of the explorers and developers, the really small penny stocks. And it's just kind of a crapshoot in a lot of ways with that, on finding the winners and avoiding the losers. And I knew that, but I also didn't really structure myself in a way that would have allowed success. I think I was really dumb with it, to be perfectly honest. Made a lot of stupid decisions, followed a lot of service recommendations blindly, et cetera, et cetera. And around this time in 2017 is when I also got involved in the crypto market. Um, when Bitcoin had that, like the whole crypto industry had that big blow off back in 2018. I remember starting to look at it sometime in June or July, um, but I didn't. Yeah, May or June, right here. But yeah, I got really involved with the crypto industry and like learning about coins, all the different cryptocurrencies out there. I started looking at a lot of the different projects and just learning as much as I could. And I had a lot of friends that were getting into it, and so I got totally caught up in all the hype here. And I actually briefly even ended up working for a small cryptocurrency startup, and of course that ended up failing. But yeah, I got caught up in that bubble, and ultimately um, rode a lot of this bear market down and lost a lot of money. This was like the first time that I kind of blew my account of sorts and lost everything. I was very naive. I wasn't recognizing the euphoria and things that were going on during this time, even though in hindsight it was like so obvious. So I feel really stupid for that. But that's what happened. Lost most of my money here. I actually remember um, I had my girlfriend at the time, and I remember having had a conversation with her and letting her know that like I lost everything I had. Um, I think at this time, if I remember correctly, I probably had around 50,000, and so I whittled that down to like 10 or 15 or whatever it was. I didn't have all my money in crypto, but I had a lot of it. So this was pretty devastating. And then if I look at something like GDX, I was kind of just a lot of my investments were just chopping around here. A lot of them were losing money, right? Like this is GDX. These are the big. GDX is the. Also, I'll just pause for a second and say, as I'm going through my videos and sharing things, I realize some people might not be aware of some of these ETFs, and I might be talking quickly without recognizing what they are. If you need to take a pause the video and go look it up, go ahead. But I'll try to explain some context, but just keep it pretty fluid too. So GDX is the large gold miner ETF. It's one of the biggest ones. It is the biggest one that people that are looking at precious metals might utilize or follow. So this is the very large precious metal companies. Well, like I said, I was in a lot of the developer and explorer, small producer, those kind of companies where, the big companies might be going sideways like this, but the smaller companies were just hemorrhaging value, just declining, right? A lot of those small companies, they're like, most of them, unless they're a small producer, a small to mid-sized producer, most of them have negative cash flows, right? Like they don't generate any money. Like they're exploring or they're developing the project. So they're constantly doing cash raises, and when they do those, they're typically issuing shares. So they're diluting all of the other shareholders because they're adding more total shares to the stock. So even if they're quote unquote, developing the project or making the project more successful, if the perceived value isn't outweighing the share dilution, then the price is just going to keep going down. And that's what happened for a lot of those companies, especially the ones that didn't end up being successful. Those just tanked. So I lost a lot of money during that time from kind of 2017 into 2018. And so eventually, I kept with it. I still believed in the precious metals bull market. I remember with Bitcoin. Yeah, okay. So I kept with it after 2018, and we had the run up in 2019 right here that where the stocks kind of bounced back a bit. And so I'm accumulating a lot of stocks into early 2020 because I'm thinking, okay, this is the breakout. Or we're gonna, the precious metals bull market might start to pick up steam. So I am kind of loading up during this time, and then COVID happens. And during COVID, that was my second big mistake. I panic sold at the bottom. I panic sold everything that I had. I mostly had precious metal stocks at this time. I didn't have a lot of cryptocurrency. I kind of had given up a little bit on the cryptocurrency space. But I remember in my for my precious metals account, I was back up to like 50K right here. So I had 50K at the top in 2018 and then lost a lot of it and then built it back up to 50K at the beginning of 2020, and then it got cut in half and I sold at the bottom. So that was my second, kind of blew my account, and just, yeah, I just panicked. And during this time I was also trying trading. I was trading more often instead of just doing longer term trade. Like I was doing shorter term trading instead of just longer term trading also. So that was a factor too. But during that time, um, I kind of gave up for like a couple months. I was like, this game is hard. So I took, we kind of moved into the spring and summer, and I kind of took a little bit of pause. But I saw that the precious metal stocks were recovering, and sometime around like April or May, um, I kind of realized like, fuck, I shouldn't have sold. I should have stayed in. And so I ended up buying back in sometime in April and May. Like I started gaining my confidence back. I started thinking, okay, like I can do this. This isn't the end of the world. I'll get back in. The bull market's got a long ways to go. And so I got back in sometime in April and May. And I told myself, I'm gonna fucking stick with this because I had a very strong feeling and conviction that it will work out. Even if it takes a long time, it will work out. And I wish I realized that in COVID, but I guess I didn't have the belief and conviction. I didn't have enough to withhold and stand through that period. There was a lot of uncertainty with COVID. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know, the whole world was shutting down at that time. We didn't know if the coronavirus was going to be something bigger than it was. There was a lot of uncertainty, but we all know, especially with precious metals, and their value, we all know that stocks come back. They always do, even in crashes, even if it takes a long time, they always come back. I was nervous because I was in these tiny penny stocks, but typically golds and silver, like precious metals, they always perform during periods of uncertainty and turmoil, and then especially with all of the money printing and the buying of treasuries that the Fed ended up doing. Like we all know that leads to higher precious metals prices. And so looking at the gold price running up in 2019 and 20, into 2020, gold did have a correction during COVID, and then it ran the other direction, to higher prices. So I ended up getting back in, and again, I told myself I'm gonna stick with the commodities bull market, the commodities in general. Commodities overall are undervalued. They were the next area to have significant relative outperformance compared to stocks and other asset classes. And so I stuck with it. And I ended up making a pretty good amount of money into August 2020 when the top was. And I was a little bit more prudent and sold some things as we continued having a run up. Now, I remember, and I want to say that all of the holdings, I tracked this back when it happened. All of the holdings that I had, again, they're these tiny penny stocks. If I didn't panic sell at the bottom of 2020, I had 50K right up here, remember, before the crash. And my portfolio at the time went down like 50%, and I panic sold. If I hadn't have panic sold, that 25K that I had down at the bottom would have gone up almost 10 times. It would have gone to 200K or 250K. And so I use that as a learning experience to remember that I can, I can't, like I tried to help it empower me that I can do this. It's like you're always going to have these challenges and uncertainty, but over time when you make all these mistakes in the market, you learn and you internalize and you remember that, hey, this isn't going to be forever. Bear markets happen. Stock prices always go up. I knew precious metals, or I strongly believed they would have a bull market and continue for many various reasons that I won't go into. But a big factor is just the continued surge in debt and inflation and devaluing of the dollar and all that kind of stuff. And but things always come back, right? Like even the recent correction that we had in the S&P, in the stock market in April this year, where it went down, I was fortunate to be smart enough to pick up some to buy some stocks down here, and not let it be a time when I feel panic or whatever. But I tried to be smart with it, right? Like I didn't deploy all my cash. I deployed like 10% or a very small amount, 10% of what I would want to buy. And knowing that if it went lower, I can buy more. And if it doesn't, at least I bought some. So you just have those learnings over time. So coming back, so I looked at my balance at the time, and from buying back in and writing it up, I got back to 50K. So I'm back up to 50K in like August 2020. And then the next few years, we have just pretty much a giant correction in stocks, and gold doesn't go anywhere either. It kind of just consolidates for a few years, 2.5 years. And during this time, I'm just continuing to work. I'm continuing to basically dollar cost average into gold stocks. Like I committed. And I remember when I committed, my memory is that I went. I have a kayak that I go fishing on, and I went out fishing that day, sometime in the summer of 2020, and I just had that whole like realization that I talked about of like, fuck, like, of it, like even if this isn't when the bull market starts, eventually it will go. Like the precious metals, gold, silver, like they will continue their bull market. That's just how things work. Things are cyclical. They go have many year periods and multi-year periods, or even multi-decade of going up, and then they have cyclical bear markets down, and then you have secular bull markets and secular bear markets. Like these things happen. And so when I was out fishing that day, I was like, fucking stick with it. Even if you just hemorrhage money, just keep dollar cost averaging and getting your average down, and eventually it'll go. So over the next few years, I just continued to learn. I listened to so many podcasts and just all kinds of stuff during this time to learn as much as I can, buy stocks that were good to buy and that would have the most opportunity for success. And I just continued doing that. Actually, I just looked at my spreadsheet correction. I had 80K at the top of at the end of 2020. By the end of 2020, I was up to 80K. Um, so that was a mix of savings and then the performance on the last part of the up move here, and then I want to talk about the crypto for a second, because I just kind of covered the precious metal side. So what happened with Bitcoin is when the crash happened in 2020, I also panic sold. Here, I ended up also buying back in, but a small position. And then I decided, with how volatile the cryptocurrency market was, I wasn't going to try and like trade anymore. So I think I did trade a bit kind of in this up move here from 10K to 60K. I think I did trade a bit in here, but somewhere in here, I don't remember exactly when. I just decided I was going to dollar cost average and just let that be the strategy for Bitcoin because it was so volatile. I didn't want to have to worry about when I was going to buy. It just seemed the easiest to dollar cost average, and there's a lot of good wisdom around that. So I ended up doing that. And then when we would have bigger declines, I would do a bulk purchase to just continue bringing my average down. And I just ended up accumulating what I have today. And the last time I bought was here, somewhere around here, around 40K. And I Decided I had enough Bitcoin, and I turned off the dollar cost averaging. So I have what I have, and my average is somewhere around 30K, 35K, like somewhere in here. So I'm just keeping what I have and probably not going to add any more to it because it's a large enough percent of my portfolio. But as I was accumulating more Bitcoin during those few years, and I kept accumulating gold stocks, I did have some of the um, gold stocks start to do well. Some of them did perform, even though the market was going sideways. And then we also had the upswing in Bitcoin into early 2024. So this is when my portfolio started to turn around, and it started to move into the hundreds of thousands, and then obviously the continued upswing in Bitcoin and the upswing that we've had in the precious metals led me to where I am today. So this is the chart of GDX. I mean, you can see how big of a run, or sorry, not GDX. This is gold. You can see how big of a run it's had, and GDX has had a huge run as well, and it's continuing to pump up. So in summary, and to kind of tidy up the story, I've made every mistake in the book. I've done all the naive, dumb things that people have done. I've blown accounts. I've panic sold. I've ridden out these crashes and panic sold at the bottom. But I continued to come back, try again, try different things, hold myself more accountable, and focus on better quality investments and better quality decisions. I've tried to trade less often and be more strategic with when I do trade. And I put my faith into what I was doing, right? Like with all the inflation and money printing and devaluation of the dollar, it just made sense that either precious metals or Bitcoin or both would do well. And with Bitcoin being a little bit more speculative, I decided to put more of my bet on the precious metals. And I'm glad that I did it. It worked out well. But um, so now I'm caught in this upswing in precious metals, and it's going very well. And I just want to level set as far as performance. Before this year, I was definitely underperforming the market. I had some success as we were kind of upswinging into 2024. I haven't looked at it recently, but I calculated it sometime in mid 2024 or the end of 2024. I calculated what my performance was, like as best as possible. Um, and I was underperforming the market for sure. And if I had to guess today, I'm probably like at market performance or slightly above it. But that's after this huge run, and things fluctuate. So who knows what it's going to be going forward. Um, Obviously, again, I started investing back in or trading and investing back in 2015. So if I had just continued to like dump everything into the S&P 500, yeah, maybe I still would be better off today. I don't know, or maybe I would have about the same amount of money. So in other words, I don't think I've gained anything in the last decade by doing what I've done, except I've gained so much knowledge on investing and trading, different types of instruments, strategies, market cycles, technicals, fundamental. I've gained so much knowledge and so much information that I feel very equipped and I feel good about managing my portfolio going forward. Who knows what'll happen, but um, I love this game. It's a passion of mine. I've been doing it for so long. I have really internalized a lot of the lessons that I've had, and I just wouldn't have done anything any differently. I mean, I've spent so much time on the markets and learning and trading and just all the stuff, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. So I think that covers that. So switching gears, I just wanted to touch on um, why I have my dashboard set up this way from the end of 2024 and why I'm not showing the performance from before. Well, ultimately, it's just very, very messy trying to show everything from before. The data in here isn't even perfect either. I'm trying the best I can to make it as accurate as possible, and obviously the today's numbers are accurate. Um, but I'm moving cash around a lot. Like over the last 5 years, and even before this year in 2024, I have lots of accounts. I'm moving cash around. I got the loans. I'm paying off loans. I'm even moving positions between accounts. So my portfolio and the accounts are in a good state today, but they weren't before, and it would just be too messy to try and show performance from prior years and not having a way to explain it. I don't even have a lot of data in here about 2025 because it's just too much effort and time to go put all the dates in and when I acquired things and whatnot. So I'm kind of using today and this month as just a fresh start to track the performance. I'm not trying to cherry pick starting this year just because of the outperformance. This is just when I decided to start this channel because I feel confident enough to share and put myself and my decisions out there. Um, like I said, I'm probably underperforming the market over the last 10 years, even with the big upswing this year. And who knows if this is even going to continue. Uh, Past results is not a guarantee of future performance. Uh, but I love the game. I'm going to continue doing it, and I'm excited for that. So thank you for listening. You can follow my monthly update videos to see my portfolio performance over time, month to month, and I'll go over every position I have and what my thoughts are on it. When I'm looking to sell or take profit or move cash into other positions, etc. And I'm going to share everything, all the changes that happen in real time on YouTube and X. So make sure you follow me on both channels. If something warrants a video, I'll post it on YouTube, but otherwise I might just post it on X. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the future videos.